Alright, we finally found a game today, which unfortunately is Geonosis defending, which, you know, it's my favorite map. but I'm dying apparently. What a great way to start the video. It's weird, I didn't think we were going to find a Galactic Assault match. I just kept searching, nothing was popping up. And I was just about to go to Heroes vs. Villains. But if you remember watching my streams, you know I would always make a mistake. And I clicked Galactic Assault one more time. And we found Crate. And I'm like, oh, okay, Crate, that's nice. But it just ended. So now we're on Geonosis. And we're defending. But anyway, still better than Heroes vs. Villains. Anyway, side note, I watched a video about Ahsoka and, I came to this conclusion myself. One of the people I thought that could be Marok or Merrick, whatever, the Inquisitor, was Ezra. I mean, we've had this talk before, but my main thing was, well, how do they know? I'm trying to put this all into make sense. How would Ezra have gotten out of wherever they went? We didn't know at the time. Now it's the other galaxy where he went with Thrawn. How would he have gotten out, but Thrawn wouldn't have? That was always the main argument against Ezra being Merrick, which makes perfect sense. I mean, that was even when I'm spitballing ideas, I'm like, yeah, it could be Ezra. But how would Ezra be here and Thrawn wouldn't? That's the main stumbling block on that. And I watched a video, I think it was from Screen Crush, and he was breaking down, I don't know if that was his main idea or he came up with it or somebody else did, but he was breaking down the Ezra as the Inquisitor guy, or a theory, and he was saying basically that he would have used the world between worlds to get out of there, and that only Force users could enter that, so Thrawn couldn't, but Ezra would have been able to. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to act like I know that's true, because I don't. I really don't. We're just spitballing here for something to talk about, since there's literally no bad guys in this lobby, apparently. But that would help explain why he would be Ezra. The Inquisitor would be Ezra. There's other bits of information, like Marok means like werewolf type of thing. Ezra's always a wolf. Werewolves are like, you know, you switch to when he goes into werewolf form, that would be, a werewolf would be considered being dark side, I guess, but not Star Wars, but, you know, they always have these little, like, Easter eggs thrown in there. But, one of my main things that he didn't talk about, and maybe I've missed this, so maybe you guys can help me with this, was, forget if Ezra's the Inquisitor or not. Okay, we know Morgan is looking for Thrawn. And we know that the device Ahsoka found is the map to the other galaxy. Okay. But either I missed it or they haven't said it. But why or how does she know that's the galaxy they need to go to? How did she know that was the device she needed to find? How does that know where Thrawn is? The device itself doesn't know where Thrawn is. It's just the way to get to that galaxy where Thrawn happens to be. So how did she get the information to know, hey, I need to go to this galaxy? Ah, there's this artifact that can help us do that. Let's go find the artifact. We find the artifact, we get the map, we can then go to the galaxy. Right? So how would she know that he was in that galaxy? I don't think I've heard a way. She kind of said she was... Thrawn calls out to her, but he doesn't have force power to be calling out. I know she's a Night Sister, and maybe they have some magic, but that was never really explained, I guess, unless I missed it. And if I did miss it, please tell me, because I really do want to know. That's where I kept saying, well, maybe, even before I knew of the world between worlds hypothesis of how he got out of there, was, well, maybe Ezra escaped and then knew where to go, but didn't know how to get there for whatever reason. It still has a lot of plot holes, really, when he, at least from what we're spitballing, is like, well, how would he get out of there, but then not know how to get back? I don't know. The world between worlds would be an example for that, where he can't go get Thrawn because only Force users can go in, but he got out. Let's say Thrawn helped convince him to go to the dark side, because Ezra has always been tempted. He went out to the world between worlds, contacted Morgan and said, all right, we need to go here. We got to figure out a way to get there, though. That's kind of where that theory would come from, and it makes sense because I'm still wondering, how does she know what galaxy to go to? That's my main thing where it hasn't been answered yet. Unless I've missed it, but I don't think I have. I watched it once and I've watched a bunch of people react to it. And I don't hear anybody talking about this. Really. They're not like, Well, how does she know to go to the galaxy? Yeah, how do they know? Did they follow the space whales like migratory routes and they knew it went to that galaxy? That's a possibility, but I haven't heard of that. You know, so it's one of those things where maybe Ezra did escape and tell him, all right, we need to go here. Let's make a ship that can do that. And I'm like, it helped answer one of my questions. Again, I'm not sure that's the thing. It could be Galen Merrick, which also sounds like that name, Marok Merrick, however you want to pronounce it. He wouldn't be the same Star Killer from the games. It wouldn't make sense for the story, but it would be a canon version of his character. You know, and then we were kind of talking about, how do you explain it? This is really a boring match. It's literally just a conversation. It's basically a podcast at this point with fucking horrible Battlefront gameplay. But in fairness to me, I can't even find bad guys because they're not doing anything. But we were kind of speculating. She's taken that huge hyperspace ring. And I think it's more likely to bring Thrawn and whatever's with him out. I don't think they're taking a fleet to him. I think they're coming out with whatever's on the other side where Thrawn is. So whether that's he still has parts of the 7th Fleet, or someone was talking about it the other day, is maybe he's met up with someone out there. Some people mention the Yuzong Bong. They kind of mention that all the time. I don't know if it'll be them. Maybe they'll have a live action version of them and change the way like the expanded universe story is of them, maybe. But they were kind of hinting that maybe Thrawn isn't alone out there. He would actually have met up with somebody out there and made ships. I don't know if I really like that idea, to be honest. I don't know. Well, if they did do it, I'd have to see how it played out to really like say if I liked it or not. But it's an idea. I still think she's gonna come out of there with at least the Chimera. But still, that is a big hyperspace ring to be going all that way just to bring one ship. I mean, even a Super Star Destroyer engine is absolutely massive. And they have a whole bunch of them on that thing. So that thing would literally bring out an entire fleet if you wanted it to. So I'm like, I'm left a little confused there. But again, if Ezra did come out from there and explain like, hey, the fleet is still intact, because they did take more than one ship if I remember right in Rebels. So maybe he does have his 7th fleet there, and that's, maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe it will just be the 7th fleet that went there was damaged. The crew members were able to salvage it, get them to a workable form where they can get to the hyperspace ring, and then she'll bring them back and they can fix the ships from there once they come back to the real universe, whatever you want to call it, or real galaxy. Maybe that's it. So who knows? Anyway, it's an interesting thing. This is what I love about Star Wars when done correctly. You get a lot of different theories. There's a lot of stuff you could talk about in between where like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? The biggest thing is when your idea doesn't pan out or isn't the correct one, to not get sad and be like, oh, this story sucks now. This doesn't mean it'll suck. Maybe sometimes it does. We've came up with better ideas for some shows than they have, unfortunately, but hopefully that's not the case with Ahsoka. I think Filoni knows what he's doing, but only time will tell. We'll find out here soon enough, but I don't know. That hearing the world between worlds, and again, if you watch the streams, even anytime we talk about it, it didn't just have to be when Rebels came out. You know I'm not a fan of the world between worlds. I do not like that. I'm glad Ahsoka's alive and she gets live action. I don't like that that's how they saved her. That's just, I'm kind of hoping it isn't how they get out of there, but it kind of seems like it is. There's a lot of stuff kind of tying into it. So I'm like, it might be that he used World Between Worlds, or that'll come into play. And it would answer the question of how Ezra's able to get out and Thrawn wouldn't, so I don't know. Just an idea. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. I do read the comments, even if I'm not responding to them all. I do read them. I'm kind of back on leaning it towards it being Ezra now that that's explained. And it would make sense. He did already go to the World Between Worlds. It's not like some random guy doing it. Ezra has been there, but I don't know, man. A lot of ideas. Then there's ideas. One of it is Screen Crush again. Was saying that I don't know as much about this. Side note, before I say what I'm about to say, but because I'm about to talk about him, I'm gonna pick Kylo. That Balin and Shin are actually some of the Knights of, what were they called? Yeah, the Knights of Ren. Yeah, I knew that. Confused me with playing with Kylo. I wanted to throw Kylo's name in there. And I'm like, well, that's an idea. But again, I'm not really an expert to go into that because I don't read the comics or any of the shit about the Knights of Ren other than a few videos. Even what he said in that video and talked about him, I already kind of forgot. But at least for what he said, it would kind of make sense that it would play into that. But I don't know how true that would be. But because I didn't even, that wasn't on my radar. I wasn't thinking Baylan and Shin had anything to do with the Knights of Ren. I'm sure they will. We'll get to them at some point in live action. Because they're trying to connect the sequels and the originals, or not the originals. Yeah, the originals. I can't talk now. I don't know if that'll be Ahsoka, but I'm sure at some point they're going to dive into that. Because even when the sequels were coming out, the Knights of Ren were always an awesome concept to me. Even though I didn't know much about them. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. He got some fucking knights and shit. Yeah, the leader of the Knights of Ren. That just sounded awesome to me. Like, wow, we're going to have actual, like, knights with this guy? Like, let's go. It's not just Kylo. Apparently Luke doesn't want to get... Oh, okay. Well, as you can see, this is why we don't play this game that often anymore. Thank you. But that was just an idea, and I go, that'd be kind of cool if they are actually Knights of Ren, because I can already tell you if they are. I like them more than whatever ones we fucking saw in the sequels, because those guys fucking suck. Knights of Ren! And then Kylo just instantly shits all over these dudes, and they accomplish next to nothing. They look cool, but that's about it. So that was always a letdown for me on the sequels, and maybe they'll try to salvage them out somehow. I think it'll be awesome if they have Baylan do it, because he already is set up like a good leader, not just like evil, but like a thinking man, I guess you could say. I guess the only way I can really that come to mind to describe him. He's not like just straight up evil, but he's got his own ideas of what he wants to do. He's not just. I don't think he's just some sheep following a leader. You know what I mean? Like, he's got his own ideas. He'll work with who he thinks can get him to those ideas. And we got stunned. We are fighting everyone here. That's just, I thought that was Luke, but that's actually just Grievous. Grievous, save me. I can't play this game no more. I'm just at a whole block, yeah? Oh, Vader here, too. Why am I the only one done? Man, I must suck. We were about to kill Yoda, but then he wanted to swing at Kylo. Yoda, you little curveball. That's more like a slider. That was a slider. We pulled him and he went sideways. Oh shit, it's Anakin. I wonder when we're going to see Anakin. I heard a rumor, so if you don't want to hear the rumor, mute for maybe 10 seconds. But the rumor is it would be at episode 5. I don't like rumors. I only saw it on Twitter because it popped up without me wanting to see it. Because I personally don't like looking at those type of rumors. I'm all into hypothesis, but I think it's a leak here, and they said it will be here. I can't stand hearing that type of shit, or looking at like IMDb to see who's talking about what. I can't stand doing that. I feel like it's cheating. All right. Anyway, what else? Don't think I have anything else. I did a horrible job explaining it. They're way better at explaining Star Wars stuff than I am. We're more like a podcaster of your average guy who doesn't know shit. That's basically us. My frenzy never hits anything. Even though their frenzy goes through my blocks. Jump right. Don't even know what just happened there. We jumped, but then we didn't, and then we got pushed. No idea. That idea we were just talking about with Thrawn kind of excites me, though, because if you're going to come out of there with the 7th Fleet, that would mean the ships are either fixed or able to be fixed relatively quickly. So maybe we would get some space combat in this one. I don't think we'll get a bunch of space combat in this season, but I kind of want it. But again, I'm just a fanboy when it comes to that. I'm not saying that would make an amazing story or anything. I'm just like, man, I kind of want to see Thrawn leading some ships. It won't really be a surprise, though, at least from what I'm understanding. It sounds like this next episode, Ahsoka's going to go to the Eye of Sion. I'm guessing she's going to board the ship and probably end up going wherever they go together. That would be my guess. Because we do ultimately know, this isn't a spoiler, I mean, Thrawn gets out of wherever he's at and comes back to the galaxy. Like, you know. So clearly Morgan's gonna succeed, but I would imagine Ahsoka's gonna go along for the ride. So it's not like Thrawn would come back with like a huge element of surprise, because Ahsoka or Sabine or someone would be able to be like, yo, this just happened. They might not believe him at first, of course. But part of me wanted the idea, this is before we saw any bit of Ahsoka, we kind of wanted the idea he was already back out there with the fleet, just in waiting, and was ready to spring his return party, if you will, at a moment's notice. You know, kind of come out of nowhere, and the rebels are like, what the fuck? And just kind of get absolutely decimated. I don't really think that's going to happen here. Because, I mean, that to me, the element of surprise would be gone, to a certain extent. Again, people aren't going to believe her. Nah, you can see the whole way they're having the rebels talk, and not just Ahsoka, but any of these shows is really like, they're nonchalant, they don't care, they act like, we won, it's done. They're not really giving them much of a fuck. Which obviously is going to be a mistake. I mean, we screamed that shit even just when we heard the sequels, and like, oh yeah, they just got rid of this fleet. Like, wow, you couldn't be more stupid than that. Like, I would not have done that. And that's before we even get to see the writing in between that leads to it. I'm like, wow, the rebels were just, or the Resistance, or New Republic, whatever the fuck they're called now, really is stupid. Again, I like stories where you don't just make one side incredibly dumb. I like good back and forth, so. But I do get, you do need to make them a bit stupid, because otherwise how the hell would these guys come back into power, you know? Get up to being this big of a fighting force, but. So I have a feeling there's gonna be some of that. Maybe Ahsoka or them will find out and be like, yo, Thrawn's back, he brought a fleet. You don't know what you're talking about. It's probably just some random rebel warlord or pirates with a Star Destroyer they found out somewhere. And kind of just like downplay it. Like, we already won, we crushed them. And that would probably come back to bite them. Maybe Hera's gonna be the only one who believes them. You know, and then again, you're gonna be stuck with just a small group trying to fight them, which I hope they go away from. At some point, I do get tired of Star Wars stories doing that, where you have two massive armies, but the other one's not really doing shit, and it's just a small little group doing something. I do get kind of tired of that. So I hope we get back to more Clone Wars style, and I don't know if that will happen with Thrawn. I hope so, but who knows. I don't know if Thrawn will have a big enough force, but where we get back to two militaries actually fighting each other. It's not just, oh my god, Thrawn has like 1,000 Star Destroyers. He won't get that big, but, you know, hypothetically speaking. Where Thrawn has this massive force, the rebels don't listen, or the New Republic doesn't listen, and now Ahsoka and a small little group of friends has to go save the day. I'm not going to like that. I get those guys are ultimately going to defeat Thrawn, but I don't want it to just be them. I want it to be like a military effort, like, alright, we got to come fight this guy. Let's go. Let's have some space battles. That's one of the things I liked about the original trilogy so much is, yeah, Luke was doing everything, but you saw the group and the military they had fighting. It wasn't just, well, they don't want to fight, they're not here, well, let's just send Luke to the Death Star and blow it up. It's still stupid that one random guy does. I get it, but, you know, at least it was more military. That's why, one of the reasons I love the Clone Wars are the best. It wasn't just one military, it was two going at it, and that, as a guy who's into the military stuff, that is awesome. Anyway, done ranting, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Anyway, bye, see you guys later.